And you mentioned before a little bit about how Grameen Foundation came about, constant conversation with Professor Yunus. Just before it started, or just before Professor Yunus decided to give you the $6,000, what were the conversations like at the moment? Did you go to him? Did he come to you? What was that like?
I will say something else about also the coming from setbacks that we talked about a second ago. One of the things I learned from Professor Yunus, and as I observed him in my years in Bangladesh, who also had enormous setbacks, is that he said something to me that it was a two-part, but one of the two parts of the saying was that in every setback, in every dark cloud, there's a silver lining, in roughly, translated. And so, so I think that when something would happen to be terrible, I began to get some confidence that if I looked for it and I kept a basic optimism and energy, I could actually draw something from that setback that I would say years later, thank God that happened. But remaining kind of curious and optimistic in the face of setbacks, because could be the platform, the springboard to an achievement. But back when we were talking, back in '96, '97, I think, and the $6,000, I was in for it before there was even, that money was available. That was a very random thing where he had won an award, which was, I think, the $200,000 cash prize that he committed to spend in Bangladesh when it was given. But he took him some time to get the permission of the government to bring that money into the country. In the time that it was there, it earned some interest. And so he contributed the interest to starting Grameen Foundation. It was all because he wanted to be very clear that he didn't want to be taking resources that were for or came from Bangladesh to start this thing in this wealthy country, and right that he should put that, but he was willing to use his own prestige, and in this case just a little accrued return for money that ultimately did go to Bangladesh to seed us. But ultimately I think we had an ultimate faith that if we went forward with this, that the resources human and financial, would emerge. Because it was such a good idea, both microfinance was a good idea, and it was just time for Grameen to take another step onto the global stage beyond him moving around and giving speeches and that he'd been doing for years, really fertilizing the soil for Grameen Foundation to come forward. So we didn't worry about it that much. We just said, are we going to do this? Is this the right structure? And who can we draw in? Because people for years have been giving him business cards. If you ever do something like this, let me know. And finding those business cards, which ones were the ones to call first. Those were the discussions we had. And I have to give credit to the Microcredit Summit, this great civil society gathering, even till today the largest convening or conference about microfinance in history, and it wasn't just a talk fest, it was the setting of a goal, a concrete goal 9 years in the future about where we want the sector to be. And it really was so well constructed as a process that it just called everyone to, even if they disagreed with the goal, they thought it was too ambitious or not ambitious enough, to say, wow, what is our legacy going to be towards contributing to this goal? And that was the catalyst, and Dr. Yunus had been part of the preparatory meetings for that thing, and he kept me informed. I was living in Bangladesh at the time. To say we need to take some steps to make sure when 2005 rolls around that we did our part. We were part of a collective effort to make this happen, and one of them was Grameen Foundation. And it's so special because when 2005 and 6 rolled around, I should say that there were so many 10-year anniversaries, ours included, because there was this civil society-led process by another social entrepreneur, Sam Daly Harris, that just prompted all of us to to act. And we took that up, and we said we probably, if not for that, we might have done this a few years later or not at all. We've chosen another strategy to kind of globalize Grameen. I might still be living in Asia. We don't know. I think the other conversations we had, which maybe weren't directly related, was, I had written a book called, in its current version, called Small Loans, Big Dreams. And I had spent intensive time interviewing the clients of Grameen Bank. And certainly while not everyone was a success story, the strong majority of them had made sustained progress against poverty. And I yearned to not just document that process, but to be a catalyst for making that happen elsewhere. And Dr. Yunus had played his role by giving speeches, opening up people's minds to microfinance. We both had a real hunger to help develop the next generation of Grameen banks around the world. And both of us, I think, fed by the heart-wrenching and also heartening stories of poverty and people overcoming it in Bangladesh. And we said, this can't be, Bangladesh can't be the only place this is done on a big scale. It just, that would be terrible, that would be wrong. And working together, we're either going to kind of change that, or we're going to go down with the ship. And in any case, we knew Bangladesh was going to continue okay, but we wanted to play for a bigger stage.
When did you write the book in the first version?
Came out in '96.
Okay.
So just before I came back here, and then we did a new edition after the Nobel Peace Prize went to Grameen Bank and Professor Yunus.
Yeah.